We will get started with 7G today. Again, this is review for your test. So we're going to come up with the expressions and equations and variables together, complete some of the solving, and then whatever remaining solving we have left, you will finish. So let's all read the scenario together. It says, Olivia is ordering balloons for a party. The balloon company charges $10.25 for delivery plus $1.50 per inflated balloon. Write an algebraic equation for the problem situation, and then define your variables. So, what do we think here? And to define those variables, we can always look down at questions 2 and 3. Question 2 says, how much will it cost to buy 6 balloons? 3 says, how much will it cost to buy 47 balloons? So what are the two things we're dealing with here? Who can tell us?
The amount of balloons.
Amount of balloons, good. And what else?
The total cost.
Total cost. Great job, Max. So X is going to represent the number of balloons. And our units is just balloons for that. Okay. Jacob, you got to do this or I got to send you out. Okay. Come on. Do you need a pencil? Got one? Great. What is Y going to represent? What did Max say? Total cost. Good. What will my units be there? Good. Dollars, someone says in the classroom. Okay. So again, if you're ever unsure of those variables, look down below a little bit at those questions to see what we're looking for. All right, now my equation. So remember, my equation is always Y equals. Well, Y is representing the cost. So that's what we're trying to write an equation for, is the cost. So what do I have to pay for?
The amount per balloons.
Good, which is?
1.50.
Good. So 150x will tell us the cost per balloon. Plus we have the delivery charge of $10.25. Okay. So that's really important. When you take your test on Thursday, I'm going to be asking you in the private chat to type in whichever equation you think is true, because if you have the wrong equation, what's going to happen to the entire test? It's going to be wrong. Okay. So if you're in the classroom taking your test, I'll just come around to check it. But if you're at home, then through the private chat, you'll need to write your equation and I'll confirm, yes, you're good to go to work on the rest of the test. Okay. Alrighty. So for number 2, we can use that equation. So our equation is Y equals 150x plus 1025. And the question is saying, find the cost for 6 balloons. So where does the 6 go in for? Y or X?
X.
X. Good. And if you need a calculator, that is totally fine. Does anyone in the classroom want a calculator? You're okay? Okay. So we multiply that. 150 times 6, right? Multiplication first is 9. And then 9 plus 1025 is 1925. Remember to write in a complete sentence. So what does this mean? Y is the cost, right? So the cost is $19.25. Remember, your dollar sign goes in the front. Any questions? Okay, I'm going to give you guys like 2 to 3 minutes to do number 3 and 4, and then we're going to put the answers up. Okay, so go ahead. 3 and 4, just like number 2. Let's solve those and confirm our answers. when you have your answers to number 3 and 4, if you want to put them into the chat, private chat, just so you're not giving out answers, go ahead and do so I can see how you're doing with it. I'm going to start setting them up on the screen. Good. So far, the things that are coming through are all correct. Just give another 30 seconds. Good job. Great. So those of you participating, not only thank you for participating, but also great job. I've only seen all correct answers so far. So let's check them over. And if you don't know what you're doing, make sure you're really looking at the screen here. Good. So number 3, we're plugging in 47 for x because x's are balloons. So we simplify that. 150 times 47 gives me 7050 plus 1025. And that gives me 8075, which again, people put. So good job. So the cost for number 3 there for 47 balloons is $80.75. Remember, again, dollar sign comes first and 2 decimals always with money. Okay, and then number 4, 85 balloons. So we plug in 85. 150 times 85 is 127.50, right? Not just 0.5. Plus we have the delivery charge, and that gives me a grand total of $137.75. So very good job to everyone who chimed into the chat because you were all correct. And those of you who didn't, hopefully you still had the correct answers, or at least one of the correct answers. Alrighty, so now use a complete sentence to explain how you found your answer. So we multiplied first, right? We're not going to use numbers. So I multiplied the 150, but the 150 represents what? What does $1.50 represent?
The cost per balloon.
Great. The cost per balloon by the 6, the 47, the 85. What did that represent?
The amount of balloons.
Right. The amount of balloons or the number of balloons. And then we added. And we added the 1025, which represents the delivery fee. Oops, the delivery fee. Okay, so again, I'm giving you guys here all the answers. You're going to use these as your guide to make sure you're writing sentences correctly when it comes time on your own. Does anyone need more time? Start to slide that up. Okay, so now into the second page, we have, again, the same scenario, but on number 6 this time around, we're looking for how many balloons, and they give us the total price. So what does that mean? Again, my equation, I'm just going to write at the top of the page, was $1.50 x plus 1025. So this time we put the 47 75 in for y, and we are looking for x. Okay, so what do we do? Let's hear from somebody else. I think I've heard from Max. I've heard from Moses. What are we going?
10.25.
Good. Okay, we're going to subtract first. And so that will give me $37.50 equals $1.50x. Okay, Caitlin, are you there? So your video is off. Okay, good. Make sure you're participating with us and writing things down. Okay. Ashley, you're keeping up with us, okay? All right.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So then we divide through by 150 and we get 25 equals x. So that means how many balloons can she purchase? She can purchase 25 balloons. All right, so take a couple of minutes here to complete number 7 and 8. So number 7 is a solving, and then 8 is writing with your own words, okay? Once you have 7, again, in the private chat, go ahead and type your answer in. See how you're doing with it. All right, so a couple minutes there. Good, Victoria. Good, Max. Good, Dom. Good, Moses. Good, Jocelyn. Good, Eva. Bunch of fine scholars here. Who else has some answers for us? Same people again, so great job to those folks. Good, Tim. Good, Jordan. So I can obviously tell who's doing their work, right? Yes, Caitlin, good. Okay, so I can tell who's doing their work because you're participating. So good job there. And then again, because you're doing your work, you're doing things correctly, which is results with great grades. So for number 7, we're plugging in 163.25 and for y, and we're going to solve for x. So we follow the same pattern. We're going, good, Gabe. We're going to subtract 10.25. That leaves me with 153 equals 150x. Divide by 150 now, and we get 102. So she can purchase 102 balloons. Okay, remember, most people are good with this, but do I have everybody's attention? When it says write in a complete sentence for these, you're not explaining how on 6 and 7. You're just saying, instead of just saying x equals 102, you're telling me that that means she can purchase 102 balloons. Now on number 8 is where you do the explaining of your steps. So what did we do? What operation? We subtracted, right? So I subtracted the 10 first. What does that 10 value represent? The delivery fee. So I subtracted the delivery fee from the total cost. Okay, so each time we subtracted that $10.25 from the original cost that they're giving us. And then we divided. And each time we divided by 150. So what does 150 represent?
The cost per balloon.
Good, cost per balloon. And there you have it. Okay, so now we can fill out our chart together because we've all come up with the correct calculations. I'll leave this up here for like 30 more seconds and then we'll go to the chart. Okay, anyone need more time before I slide the page down? Okay, so here we have our variables and our chart. So for number 9, what are the variables? Where do I go look, everybody? We go right to the very beginning where we said what X and Y are, right? So X is number of balloons, Y is total cost. So my variables are, the number of balloons. And we'll put the unit in parentheses. Oop. There we go. Variables are the number of balloons and the Y was the total cost. Okay, so that answer for you is given right when we defined those variables at the top of your paper. Which is the independent variable? X, right? But I'm not just going to say X. What was X?
The amount of balloons.
Perfect. So the independent variable is the amount of balloons or number of balloons. Which then leaves me with the fact that the dependent is the other one, which we said is total cost. Okay, I'm going to scroll for 1 second and then I'll come back so you can keep copying. But if we go back to the very beginning on number 1, there's my variables and my equation. In my equation, I have my variables of X and Y, and then I have 2 numbers. What do those 2 numbers represent? Not the variables, but the, what does number 11 say? Constants. Okay, so my variables are what we define for X and Y, and my constants are those same numbers I continuously use in my equation, which that first one was $1.50, which represented, so the constants are 150, but I'm not going to write 150. That's the cost of the balloon. And that 10 value, what did that represent?
The delivery cost.
Good, the delivery fee or delivery cost. Okay, anyone have a question on 9, 10, and 11? Because I've said this a lot There's still some folks that continuously get those wrong. So if you're not sure where I'm coming up with these answers, speak up. Or after lunch, if you want a little one-on-one help, I'll explain that. But don't sit back, okay? Make sure to ask any questions. All right, so for number 12, our labels, right? Those are our variables. It's always our x1 first, which we said that x value is the number of balloons. And what do we say the unit is for number of balloons? Just balloons. Good. And then my other quantity is our other variable, which is the total cost. Make sure, most of you guys are doing this correctly, but make sure whichever one you said is your independent or your x is what's coming first, and your dependent, which you said is your y, comes second. And the units for cost is dollars. All right. For the expression, what's in my first column? Good, x. Always x for the first one. And then for the second column?
1.50x plus 10^5.
Good. So someone in the class said that and somebody at home. It is the part after the y equals for our equation. And that was the 1.50x plus 1025. Good job. Okay. And now our data just comes from the problems we solve. So for 6 balloons, that was question number 2. We came up with 1925. For 47 balloons, that was question 3, and we came up with 8075. For question 4, we came up with 137.75. Then question 6 gave us the money of 47.75, and that gave us 25 balloons. And for 163, that gave us 102 balloons. Any questions with your chart? I will leave that up there for 30 more seconds. That has to be filled out correctly in order to do your graph. Okay, so then we have our graph, so we need to come up with our intervals. So go ahead, as I leave this up here for another moment, go ahead, start figuring out those intervals, and we'll walk through that and make sure those are correct before you head to lunch. Once you do know your intervals, if you want to put it into the private chat, please do so. Again, that's showing me that you're trying things. Even if it's wrong, that's okay, but you're trying. Max, you're good? Okay, I'm just gonna finish this part with you guys so that before we head to lunch, you all have the correct intervals here, okay? So when we're looking at our chart, the main thing is to look at the largest. So we have 6, 47, 85, 25, 102. So this last piece is our largest values, okay? So when we go do our intervals, our variable quantities, the first one is always that X, which is number of balloons. If the bell rings, please hang tight. Y is our second one, which was our total cost. Lower bounds, we don't have any negatives, so those are zeros. And then our upper bounds, make sure to be consistent. Balloons upper bounds is 102, and cost upper bounds is 163.25. What do we do to determine those intervals, folks? Divide by 20. So when I do 100, just hang tight for 30 more seconds here. So when I do 102 divided by 20, we get 5.1-ish. So what does that mean? Round up, yeah. And I would just round up to 6.
Are we able to use 10 though? Because we can just use half of the box.
If you use 10, it's not bad, but it really narrows your graph down to just being in like part of that graph. So it's not like terrible, but I would choose 6. And then for the other one, 163.25, divide that by 20. That gives us 8.16, and that is really close to what? 10. So 10 is definitely good there. Okay? So when you guys come back from lunch, you're going to finish the graph and then do the integer problems. All right? Have a good lunch. We'll see you guys around 11:55.